When was the National Commission for Backward Classes established? 1993. Golaknath versus Punjab state case is related with fundamental rights. Who has the power to form a new state within the Union of India? President. How many times has the President declared financial emergency in India? Never. Shadow cabinet is a feature of which country? Britain. Who appoints the Attorney General of India? President. In which part of our Constitution the concept of welfare state finds elaboration? Directive principles. With whose prior consent can the money bills be introduced in the state legislature? Governor. The collective responsibility of the cabinet was introduced in India by whom? Constitution of India. The only union territory that has a high court of its own is Delhi. Who has the power to impose reasonable restrictions on the fundamental rights of the Indian citizens? Parliament. State of Bombay was bifurcated into Maharashtra and Gujarat on 1st May in the year 1960. Which article gives the power to the Parliament to make law on subjects of state list? 249. What is the minimum number of members must present in Parliament so that the work of the House can continue? 1/10 of the total members. Bicameral legislature means the lower and upper houses. When was the Lokpal Bill passed in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? 2013. When were the states reorganized on linguistic basis? In 1956 AD. The 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act incorporates whom to provide constitutional recognition to panchayats. Part 9. What duration should be the difference between the first and second motion of no confidence? 6 months. How many schedules are there in the Constitution of India? 12. Mandal Commission report related to other backward classes. What does the theory of fundamental rights imply? Limited government. What kind of government is Bhutan, the neighboring country of India? Constitutional monarchy. Who hold the post of Chief Election Commissioner after the retirement of N. Gopalswamy? Naveen Chawla. Salvation is in following common will. Who said this? Rousseau. What type of emergencies have been implemented only once in India? Internal emergency. The American president was a famous film actor before elected as president. Ronald Reagan. To whom is a minister in a state individually responsible? Governor. What is the term of President of Switzerland? 1 year. After how many years is the President of USA is elected? 4 years. For how long the ordinance issued by the Governor will remain in force without the approval of the state legislature? 6 weeks. To whom is the Chief Minister of a state responsible? Governor. Who first imparted a mass character to the Indian National Congress? Mahatma Gandhi. Who was the first Prime Minister of England? Sir Robert Walpole. When was the first Central Legislative Assembly formed? 1931. If the Parliament is to take over the legislative powers and subjects in the state list, then a resolution to be passed by Rajya Sabha. According to our Constitution, who is the head of executive? President. Where can the no confidence motion be presented against Council of Ministers? Only in Lok Sabha. Which article denotes that the President of India can declare financial emergency? Article 360. Salaries of ministers in a state is determined by whom? State legislature. Under which article the fundamental rights of the members of the armed forces can be specifically restricted? Article 33. Which of the following high courts declared first that shutdown is unconstitutional? Kerala. Who organizes the election process for the post of President of India? Election Commission of India. The interval between two sessions of a House of Parliament should not be more than 6 months. Who is the President of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research? Prime Minister of India. Population control and family planning are given in the 7th schedule to the Constitution of India. Listed in the list. Concurrent. Who was the founder of Dravida Kazhagam from Tamil Nadu? E.V. Ramaswamy. What is minimum percentage of votes should a political party get to get the status of registered party? 6%. In which of the following systems few rules over all? Oligarchy. In India, the concept of single citizenship has been adopted from which country? From England. The Constitution of India represents the budget as annual financial statement. Who was the first woman film star nominated to the Rajya Sabha? Nargis Dutt. The writ, which is issued by the court in case of illegal detention of a person, is habeas corpus. Who has the power to decide on an election petition for any state? High Court. Which is known as a political right? Right to vote. Who was the sitting vice president lost the election for the post of president? Bhairo Singh Shekhawat. When was the Constituent Assembly for Undivided India met first? 9th December 1946. Who was considered as the maker of the Constitution of India? B.R. Ambedkar. President of India has the emergency power of 3 times. The capital of Lakshadweep is Kavaratti. Who hold the post President of India twice? Babu Rajendra Prasad. Who was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution? B.R. Ambedkar. Which is not a feature of centralized government? Judicial review. Cabinet dictatorial is the idea of Muir Lowell. In which year did Annie Besant elected as the presidentship of the Indian National Congress? 1917. The article from Indian Constitution that abolishes untouchability is Article 17. The 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council are China, France, Russia, UK, USA. Trade union comes under which list of Indian Constitution? Concurrent list. In which year was the anti-defection law passed by the Parliament of India? 1985. Which is not a matter of local government? Law and order. From where can a member of Parliament claim immunity? From civil cases only. Where are the disputes regarding the election of the President and Vice President settled? In the Supreme Court. The committee that recommended the decentralization system is Balwant Rai Mehta. In which articles there is provision of right to equality? Article 14. Election Commission was set up under which article of our Constitution? Article 324. In which schedule is the list of items which may be entrusted to the panchayats given? 11th Schedule. When did the Constituent Assembly adopt the national anthem? 24th January 1950. Who was the only President of India who elected unopposed? Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy. Who is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha? Vice President. Who was the chairman of the Union Constitution Committee of the Constituent Assembly? Jawaharlal Nehru. The retired judges of Supreme Court are restricted to practice advocacy in any court of India. Who said, "I therefore want freedom immediately, this very night, before dawn if it can be had"? Mahatma Gandhi. House of the People has been named as Lok Sabha in the year 1954. Who appoints the Governor of Jammu and Kashmir? President. Governor is sworn by whom? Chief Justice of High Court. During the proclamation of national emergency, which articles cannot be suspended? Articles 20 and 21st. Which country's constitution is the largest written constitution in the world? India. In which year states were reorganized on linguistic basis? 1956. What is the tenure of members of Rajya Sabha? 6 years. When did the first linguistic state of Andhra come into existence? 1st October 1953. Which article of Indian Constitution is denoted as the heart and soul of the Indian Constitution by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar? Article 32. Panchayati polity is divided into how many levels of governance? 3. Salary and allowances of the ex officio officials of India are mentioned in which schedule of the Constitution? 2nd Schedule. The first Governor-General of India was appointed under the provisions of which Act? 1833. If the President wishes to resign from his post, he can do so by writing to whom? Vice President. Who interprets the Constitution? Judiciary. Which political party gave 2 prime ministers in 2 years? Janata Dal. After the army has taken the administration and judiciary under its control, what is the applicable law called? Martial law. According to which article of our Constitution, the State Legislative Council can be created or abolished? Article 169. In which article is there a provision of right to equality? Article 14. Under which amendment of the Constitution of India, the retirement age of High Court judges was 60 to 62 years? 15th. The ordinance by Governor will be valid in case of non-approval in state legislature for a period of 6 weeks. What is the source of maximum income to Panchayati Raj? Government grants. Parliamentary committee scrutinizing the report of Controller and Auditor General of India is Public Accounts Committee. Who decides the salary and allowances of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha? Parliament. Which system in independent India goes opposite to the real basis of democracy? Caste system. During what period the proclamation of emergency made by President should be approved by both House of the Parliament? Within 1 month. How long the President's ordinance remains in force? 6 months. who was elected as the president of All India Khilafat Conference when it met at Delhi in 1919? Mahatma Gandhi. Which articles of Indian Constitution prohibits untouchability? Article 17. Article 19 of Indian Constitution provides dash number of freedom. 6. Freedom. The chairman of Public Accounts Committee of Parliament is appointed by Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Which country is the first country in the world to legalize death of desire? Netherlands. Who was instrumental in bringing the extremists and the moderates together at Lucknow? Annie Besant. What is called the tax on ancestral property? Property tax. Which judicial order the higher court issues to a lower court? Prohibition. Which body decides the conditions for getting the citizenship of India? Parliament. Who has the authority to remove the Vice President from his office before the expiry of his term? Parliament. Advantage of unitary system of governance is strong state. Who is associated with the Local Self-Government Act? Ripon. Who decides that a bill in Parliament is a money bill or not? Chairman of Lok Sabha. What is the maximum gap period between two sessions of Parliament? 6 months. When were the fundamental duties inserted in Indian Constitution? 1976. Lotteries organized by the government of a state come under which list? State list. Which house of the Parliament can initiate impeachment proceedings against the President of India? Either House of Parliament. How can a change in distribution of powers between the centre and the states be done? By amending the Constitution. Which is the highest and final judicial tribunal in respect of the Constitution of India? Supreme Court. A money bill can be presented in the State Assembly with prior authorization of whom? Governor of the state. Who administers oath of office to the President? Chief Justice of India. Who was the first Deputy Chairman of Planning Commission of India? Shri V. T. Krishnamachari. What is the national parliamentary body of China called? National People's Congress. In which act was suggested the post of Controller and Auditor General in India? Act of 1919. Which fundamental rights can be controlled by Preventive Detention Act? Right to freedom. Who is considered the father of idealism? Plato. To become a judge of High Court, at least how many years one should have experience of advocacy as High Court advocate? 10 years. Who was the first woman president of the Indian National Congress? Annie Besant. Which sections of the Indian Penal Code are related to gay, lustful, bisexual and transsexual communities? 377. The Prime Ministers who did not take part in session of Parliament during his term is Charan Singh. During whose viceroyalty was the system of budget introduced in India for the first time? Canning. Under which article the decision of the Central Administrative Tribunal can be challenged in the Supreme Court? 323A. Right to vote in Parliament elections are legal rights. The tenure of the Rajya Sabha, which was 5 years under the original constitution, was increased by the 42nd Amendment to 6 years. When the post of President and Vice President are vacant, who perform the duties of President temporarily? Chief Justice of India. Who was the first woman Chief Justice of a High Court? Laila Seth. What is the maximum permissible period between two sessions of a state legislative assembly? 6 months. Under which article of Constitution, President can make the proclamation of emergency in failure of constitutional machinery in any state? 356. Which commission investigated central and state relations? Sarkaria Commission. Who was first president of USA to visit India? D.W. Eisenhower. In which part of Indian Constitution, fundamental rights mentioned? Part 3. How the President of USA appoints the judges of the Supreme Court? With the consent of the Senate. In which part is the provision of amending the constitutional provision is given? Part 20, Article 368. The principal bench of High Court of Madhya Pradesh is located in Jabalpur. The first Finance Commission was formed in 1951. In a parliamentary type of government, he is the first among the equal. Who is he? Prime Minister. Any dispute regarding election of Vice President of India must be filed in the Supreme Court. Man is a social animal. Whose statement is this? Aristotle. Indian federalism is closer to which country? Canada. The state, which was formed by Madhya Pradesh with a resolution passed by the Parliament in 2000 is Chhattisgarh. How many readings of the non-money bill performed in each House of Parliament? 3. Under 44th Amendment Act, which of the followings became a legal right? Right to property. The meaning of autocracy is rule of one person. Where were the high courts in India first started at? Bombay, Madras, Calcutta. Who resigned as Vice President to contest for the office of the President? V. Giri. By which amendment were the fundamental duties added to the Constitution? 42nd Amendment. Who is to give prominence to the important feature of democracy? Citizens. Which innovative discussion process has been incorporated by the Indian Parliament in the world parliamentary systems? Zero time. Which state has no Panchayati Raj institution at all? Nagaland. In which year the Right to Information Act was passed? 2005. Which state has the largest percentage of reserved parliamentary seats? Uttar Pradesh. Which writ's meaning is to have the body of? Habeas corpus. By whom is the area of Lok Sabha constituency for the purpose of general election determined? Election Commission. The chairman of the Public Accounts Committee in the Indian Parliament is leader of the opposition party. Which are the last appellate courts? Supreme Court. For how many months can the proclamation of emergency at the first instance be restricted? 6 months. Chief Ministers of all the states are ex officio members of which council? National Development Council. Whose recommendation is mandatory for the President of India to impeach before the end of his term? Both the Houses of Parliament. How are the members of the Rajya Sabha elected? Indirect election. The right to property was removed from the list of fundamental rights during whose reign of? Morarji Desai government. Who was the second Chief Election Commissioner of India? K.V.K. Sundaram. Where is in the Constitution of India the word federal used? Nowhere in the Constitution. In which year the anti-defection law was passed by Indian Parliament? 1985. Which means that the Supreme Court will reconsider the case and the legal issues involved in it. Appellate jurisdiction. Who was the first woman governor in Independence India? Sarojini Naidu. By whom is the Prime Minister appointed? President. How much age a citizen should have completed for the election of the President? 35 years. Who is the custodian of Indian Constitution? Chief Justice of India. When was the Right to Information Act enacted in India? 15th June 2005. When was the 9th schedule of the Constitution of India added? By the First Amendment. Who were considered constitutionalist within the Indian National Congress? Satyamurthy and K. M. Mushi. In case a president dies while in office, for how many months can the vice president act as president? 6 months. To which do the residuary powers of legislation in case of Jammu and Kashmir belong? The state legislature. The soul of India lives in villages. Whose statement is this? Gandhi ji. Which petition or mandate is given by the court to a government official to do his official work? The mandate. Sarkaria Commission was constituted to report on what subject? Center-state relation. When the Vice President officiates as President, whose salary does he draw? President. Who is the ex officio Chairman of Planning Commission and National Development Council? Prime Minister. How can a new All India service be introduced? Under Article 312. When India became a full sovereign democratic republic. 26th November 1949. How India is described in the Constitution of India? Union of States. Which of the followings is the first woman Speaker of Lok Sabha? Meera Kumar.